Hi, my name is Mel, and we're going to be talking about a few different things here because there's been some flat earther, people who believe the earth is flat for whatever reason, who's making some really somewhat very dubious claims, to say the least, about the earth. And he's claiming, or this particular person is a he, stuff about all sorts of things to do with it. So the Earth's curvature drops at a rate of approximately 7.85 centimeters per kilometer squared. I'm doing this in metric. I'm not going to do the imperial, so stuff you, which can be widely rounded to about 8 centimeters per kilometer for a quick mental math. All right. Because the Earth is a sphere and it is not flat, this drop increases quadratically with distance. This means that if you draw a perfectly flat line tangent to the Earth's surface, the gap between that line and the gap grows rapidly as you move away. And I'm not going to even describe how to calculate curvature drop. Math is not my thing. You can look elsewhere for that. But there's all sorts of things you need to do in sort of this. Count for distance accumulation, determine horizon distance, factor in atmospheric refraction. Okay, so this has been determined by people who know a lot more than me as being 7.85, and they test this constantly. This is not just one, and we have known the Earth is a sphere or round, I guess, for hundreds of years. Okay, and there's simple experiments you can do to test this. It doesn't require any, or like a degree in any kind of maths or engineering to know this, right? You can put high sticks up like a certain distance away, and you'll find the shadows form at different times, all that sort of stuff. Okay, so Earth's rotation. Earth rotates on its axis once every 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 4.09 seconds, a duration known as a sidereal day. However, because Earth also rotates, orbits the sun, or goes around the sun, it must rotate slightly more than 360 degrees for the sun to reach the same spot in the sky, making our standard solar day to be 24 hours. There's also speed you can do by latitude. So the speed of Earth's rotation depends entirely on your latitude in general, because a point of the equator has to travel a much larger distance than a point near the pole in the same 24-hour period. Okay, so the equator has 0 degrees, rotates at a maximum speed of 1,674.4 kilometers per hour. The poles, 90 degrees, rotate at 0 because you're standing directly in the axis of rotation. Rotational effect. We do not feel this spinning because we, the atmosphere, and everything else move along with the planet at a constant speed. Now, if that speed was to change radically, like if the Earth would just stop or radically speed up or radically slow down, we would definitely feel it. But because it's travel, because we travel along and rotating at a relatively constant, it is not perfectly constant, I just want to say that, but relatively constant speed, we don't feel it. However, the rotation causes several physical phenomena. Equatorial bulge. The centrifugal force causes the Earth to flatten very slightly. The Earth's diameter is about 43 kilometers wider at the equator than from pole to pole. All right? Coriolis effect. The rotation deflects moving air and water currents. Winds are turned into the right in the northern hemisphere and into the left in the southern hemisphere, steering global weather patterns and ocean currents. Space launch advantages. Rocket launch sites are intentionally built as close to the equator as possible, like French Guiana or Florida. Launching eastward allows rockets to harness the Earth's rotational boost, saving massive amounts of fuel. Fluctuations in speed. Now, as I've said, Earth's rotation is not perfectly constant, and it is gradually slowing down over geological timescales due to tidal friction caused by the gravitational pull of the moon and the sun. This drag increases the length of the day by roughly 2.3 milliseconds per century. On shorter timescales, large-scale movements of matter, such as shifting ocean currents, atmospheric winds, and post-glacial rebound, can slightly speed up or slow down the daily rotation by fractions of a millisecond, by fractions of a millisecond. The rotational period at its equator is usually where it's measured, but it's like it does change. The Earth travels around the sun at the average speed of 29.78 kilometers per second, right? Or 107 and 200 kilometers per hour. And so it's 29.78 kilometers per second, all right? And there's reasons why we don't feel the Earth's rotating the sun, orbiting, because it's, we move with the planet. Again, like the Earth is big in compared to us. The problem is, this is all coming from like conspiracy nonsense, quite honestly. So there are this person I've seen this is a classical flat Earth conspiracy. They think that 666 is some because it's the number given in Revelations to one of the beasts or something. Who knows? I don't. It's some way evil or the devil. It's some way means something, and it's a classic conspiracy rabbit hole. People believe the Earth's flat or part of a massive deception. Love to point this out, but it is just classic case of cherry picking the units and rounding numbers to force a specific pattern, confirmation bias. So the curvature trick, they say the Earth curve drops at 0.666 feet per mile square. The reality, if you're doing imperial, for number one, so why not just do it by kilometres like every sane other person does? Actual baseline formula for imperial is 8 inches per mile squared. Because there are 12 inches in a foot, 8 divided by 12 equals 0.666 repeating. Okay, they intentionally switch from inches to feet to get these digits. The axial tilt. They claim the Earth axial tilt is 66.6 degrees. The Earth's tilt is actually 23.44 degrees. To get the numbers, they subtract 23.44 from 90 degrees, which equals a 66.56 degrees. They then round up to 66 to make it fit the narrative. The orbital speed trick. They claim the Earth travels around the sun at 66,600 miles per hour, which again, it's miles per hour. Why not just do metric, The Earth's orbital speed does change, okay? But its average speed is about 29.78 kilometers per second. And when you convert to miles per hour, it comes out to roughly 66,622 miles per hour. They simply round down to the nearest 100 to get their clean 6666, whatever it is. Why does it work? If you can manipulate measurement units enough, switching between kilometers, miles, inches, and feet, or picking specific angles, you can make almost any planetary statistic match any number you want. And this is the thing. This is all part of conspiracy that, like, somehow, this, the world is hiding, the fact that the Earth is flat from people why, I don't know. They say that NASA, it's a Jewish word meaning something, I have no idea what they think it means. It means some Jewish things, some evil thing. And like NASA is a acronym. It's an English word acronym. It's not, was never meant to be translated. I mean, if you're going to translate the word, translate all the words into Jewish or Hebrew or whatever. And I mean, like, I'm like failing to see, even think, like, you think NASA, even, I mean, like, not the only space agency that exists in the world. And you're talking a conspiracy that would have to cover a lot of people. And, like, quite honestly, no, it's just absurd. And I mean, look, I don't like mocking people. But I think if you're a flat earther or a creationist or an intelligent designer, I think you are fundamentally very dishonest. Okay, and I think you're trying to push this, religious or ideologically conspiratorial stuff to try and get your religion or your thought into people's brains. And I don't think that's fair. Because, like, okay, the earth is not flat, and creation and intelligent design are nonsense. Okay, that's just is. Not getting around with it. We do not feel the Earth orbiting the Sun for exactly the same reason why we do not feel, as I said before, you're speeding down a highway when riding inside a smoothly moving car or on cruise control because of the constant variable, velocity. Human bodies cannot detect absolute speed. Our sensory systems only feel changes in speed or direction, which can be known as acceleration. Zero linear acceleration. The Earth moves through the vacuum of space at a near constant. It is not always constant, but a near constant. It will change of roughly 107,200 kilometers per hour because there's no drag or friction or air resistance in space. There are no bumps, vibrations, or sudden braking forces. Now, obviously, there are small changes, but they're not big enough for us to feel. Since our bodies and the air we breathe, the ground and the buildings around you are all moving together at the same velocity, there's no physical force pushing or pulling against you to indicate movement. This is like, I mean, I'm not great at physics or maths, but even I know this, okay? Microscopic orbital acceleration. To stay in a circular or elliptical or orbit, which I got to say, Earth is not either in any. We're in elliptical, I think, orbit. We're not in circular. An object technically must accelerate towards the center of that orbit, centripetal acceleration. However, Earth's orbit around the sun is so imaginably vast that the curve is nearly unnoticeable on a local scale. So because we're in elliptical order, we do sort of like, I don't like the word drop, but I'm saying we do like go to the center of that orbit. But it's because it's so big in terms of us. It's not big in terms of the universe, but big in terms of relation to the planet and in terms of us. We are not going to feel it at our local school. The acceleration holding Earth in its orbit is a very tiny 0.0059 meters per second squared. By comparison, the gravity holding down firmly to the ground is about 9.81 meters per squared. And the orbital pull is literally thousands of times weaker than everyday gravity, making it completely imperceptible to any human senses. The atmosphere and everything else, clouds and all that, move with us. If you roll down a car's window at high speeds, the rushing wind immediately reminds you of that you were moving. On Earth, this does not happen because our atmosphere is bound to the planet by gravity. It is a thing. The blanket of air surrounding Earth rotates and orbits right along with us, meaning there is no massive planetary-wide space wind blowing against us as we travel around the sun. Well, space wind is a sort of space weather is a thing, but it doesn't mean the same weather as we think of it on Earth. And I think this is sort of like, I'm not going to go into what defines relative and other motion here, because I mean, I quite frankly wouldn't know what I'm talking about. And look, I'm not fantastic. I mean, I can't do maths at all. And so I've had to get some, like internet help with some of this. But look, this is just like this conspiracy belief, they get to this zero, 6666 or whatever it is by doing a lot of very deceptive tricks. And it's like, it's a real conspiracy rabbit hole that I don't think functions. I mean, like, you know, one, we should be measuring things in a metric scale because that makes way more sense than any empirical scale. And we should be measuring in the best way possible. And we've got to realize that nothing is perfectly constant. It can be nearly constant, but it will have very minute changes, even if they're minute. Okay? So this is just to say, look, flat earthers, making up, quite honestly, nonsense about, what, like they go, that the Antarctic or something, it's some crap to do with that. It's like its GPS or something is 66 or something, or like I don't know what they even say. Like the polar circles are are supposedly 66 point degrees north and south. And they are 66.56 degrees north and south. Calculated as 90 degrees, 23.44 degrees. These circles mark the boundaries of the Arctic and Arctic. Inside them, the sun stays above the horizon for 24 hours in summer, the night sun, and never rises in the winter and other times of the year. And look, the Arctic circles, the polar circles, Antarctica and Arctic, will change depending on a whole lot of other determinations on like our climate and weather and everything else. Okay, so I mean they are obviously going from 66.56 to 66.6. Let's just round it up, let's make it speaky, because 666 is whatever, is bad for some reason because of some book mentions some number somewhere for some, who knows. And I mean, and we have assigned these degrees. We have decided where these degrees are in. Like the tropics are at 23 degrees north and south. Okay, the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn mark the furthest latitudes north and south sun where the sun can ever shine directly overhead at noon. Okay, so we have defined that. We're the ones who decided how that should go. We could have done that as anything, I don't think it means anything, quite honestly, that the number for, the polar circles is near 66 point, it's 66.56 degrees. So what? I mean, really, so what, quite honestly? And I think this is just so harmful in terms of, deciding, like, because I said flat earth is dangerous nonsense, like creationism and intelligent design is dangerous nonsense. That's not just taking away from the reality of what the world and the universe as it shows us. I mean, and it's a way of pushing a form of theism or a form of ideology onto other people that's based on bullshit, quite honestly. And I don't mean to be awful, but like I've got no tolerance at all for creationists, intelligent design, or flat earthers for that matter. Or if you're vaccine denied, I don't have any tolerance for that either. Okay, so okay, that's me.